that, once upon a time, nestled deep within a valley surrounded by towering, misty mountains, lay a small village named Grayscale. And just like its name, everything in the village was grey. The houses were grey, the cobblestone streets were grey, the trees had grey leaves, and even the river that flowed nearby shimmered with a dull, grey light. The people of Grayscale had forgotten what colours were. They lived their lives in shades of charcoal, stone, and slate, never knowing the warmth of red, the calm of blue, or the joy of yellow. In this quiet, colourless world lived a young girl named Lyra. Lyra was different. While everyone else seemed content with the endless grey, Lyra dreamed of something more. She had a curious heart and an imagination that painted pictures far brighter than her scriptings. She would often sit by the grey river, sketching in the dirt with a stick, imagining a world filled with vibrant hues she had only heard about in whispered old stories from her grandmother. Once, her grandmother would say the world was a rainbow. One evening, as twilight painted the grey sky a slightly darker shade of grey, Lyra was sitting in her favourite spot by the riverbank. She was feeling a little sad, wishing she could see just one speck of colour. As a tear rolled down her cheek and plopped onto a grey pebble, a tiny glimmer of light caught her eye. It wasn't the usual grey sparkle of the water. This was different. It shimmered and shifted, and as she looked closer, she saw it was a moth. But not just any moth. Its wings were not dusty grey like all the others. They were different. They held a faint pearlescent glow, like a secret waiting to be revealed. Lyra reached out her hand, slowly and gently. The moth, instead of flying away, fluttered and landed softly on her fingertip. As it rested there, its wings began to pulse with a soft inner light. Lyra gasped. A delicate, beautiful shade of blue, like the clearest summer sky she had only ever imagined, spread across one of its wings. It was the first true colour she had ever seen. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had never known before. The moth seemed to sense her wonder. It fluttered its newly coloured wing and then took off, flying slowly towards the dark, whispering woods at the edge of the village. Lyra knew with a certainty that filled her whole being that she had to follow it. Holding her breath, Lyra tiptoed into the whispering woods, a place the villagers usually avoided. The grey trees looked like spooky skeletons in the dim light, but Lyra wasn't afraid. Her focus was entirely on the little glowing moth, her tiny beacon of blue as it danced between the gnarled branches. The moth led her deeper and deeper into the forest, to a place she had never been before. It led her to a clearing where a single ancient willow tree stood. Its long, weeping branches, all grey, of course, draped down like a curtain, hiding whatever was inside. The colour moth fluttered through a gap in the branches and disappeared. Taking a deep breath, Lyra pushed aside the willow's gentle curtain of leaves and stepped inside. What she saw made her eyes go wide with astonishment. The air within the willow's embrace was alive with thousands upon thousands of moths, all of them a flat, uniform grey, just like the one she had followed. They were clustered on the branches, the trunk, and the leaves, their wings still and silent. At the very center of the tree, on a bed of soft gray moss, lay a magnificent moth, much larger than the others. It was the queen of the moths, but her wings were pale and almost translucent, completely devoid of any color. She looked tired and weak. The little blue moth Lyra had followed fluttered over to the queen and landed beside her. As Lyra stepped closer, the queen slowly opened her eyes. A soft, gentle voice echoed in Lyra's mind, not through her ears. "Welcome, child of dreams," the voice whispered. "I have been waiting for someone with a heart full of wonder. Our colors have faded. A great sadness fell upon the land long ago, and it drained all the color from the world, and from us, the keepers of color." The queen explained that the moths were the weavers of the world's hues. Each moth was responsible for a specific shade, but their magic was fueled by feelings of joy, laughter, and hope. As the people of Grayscale forgot how to feel these things, the moths lost their power and the world faded to gray. "But your tear of longing," the queen's voice whispered. It held a powerful emotion. It awakened a tiny spark of blue in this little one. She gestured with a weak antenna towards the small moth. "It is a start, but we need more. We need you, Lyra." The queen then told Lyra about the 3 hidden springs of emotion: the spring of joy, the spring of courage, and the spring of hope. If Lyra could find these springs and bring back a drop of their magical water, they could restore the queen's power, and she, in turn, could give color back to all the moths and to the world. Lyra looked at the thousands of sleeping grey moths, and then at her own grey dress, and she knew what she had to do. "I'll do it," she said, her voice filled with a new and determined energy. "I will bring back the colors." The little blue moth became her guide. First, it led her high into the mountains, to a hidden cave behind a waterfall. Inside, the sound of tinkling laughter echoed, even though no one was there. This was the spring of joy. Lyra thought about the funniest story her grandmother had ever told her, and a real, genuine giggle escaped her lips. As she laughed, a single, glowing golden droplet welled up from the spring. She carefully collected it in a small, empty seed pod she carried. As soon as the drop was collected, her little guide moth's other wing shimmered and turned a brilliant, sunny yellow. Next, the moth led her down into the darkest part of the forest, where shadows danced and strange noises rustled in the undergrowth. Lyra felt a flicker of fear, but she thought of the queen and the colorless world. She took a deep breath, stood up tall, and walked forward with purpose. Her bravery led her to a small clearing where a spring bubbled up from the roots of an ancient oak tree. This was the spring of courage. Thinking of her determination to help her new friends, Lyra reached into the spring, and a single fiery red drop of water clung to her fingertips. She saved it in another seed pod, and as she did, a bold streak of red appeared on her guide moth's back. Finally, her colorful guide led her back to the edge of the village, to the very spot by the river where her journey began. The Spring of Hope was not hidden in a cave or a dark forest. It was right there, in the open. The Queen's voice echoed in her mind, "Hope is not found in a secret place, but created where it is needed most." Lyra looked at her grey village and imagined it filled with colour. She pictured children laughing and playing under a blue sky, families having picnics on green grass, and flowers of every colour blooming in the gardens. A powerful feeling of hope for a brighter future swelled in her heart. As it did, a pure white droplet, shimmering with all the colours of the rainbow, rose from the river. This was the drop from the Spring of Hope. With her 3 precious seed pods, Lyra rushed back to the willow tree. She presented the drops of joy, courage, and hope to the Queen. As the Queen absorbed the magical water, a magnificent transformation began. A wave of vibrant energy pulsed from her, and her wings began to fill with the most incredible colors Lyra had ever imagined: deep purples, rich greens, brilliant oranges, and soft pinks. The light spread from the Queen to every single moth in the tree. One by one, they woke up, their wings bursting into a kaleidoscope of colors. The air was filled with the silent, beautiful dance of thousands of colored moths. They poured out from the willow tree like a living rainbow and flew towards the village of Grayscale. As they flew, they brushed their colorful wings against everything they passed. Where a red moth touched a roof, it turned a cheerful cherry red. Where a blue moth danced on the river, the water began to sparkle with the color of the sky. The gray trees blossomed with green leaves, and gray flowers bloomed into dazzling arrays of every shade imaginable. The villagers came out of their grey houses, blinking in the sudden, beautiful light. They gasped, pointing and laughing with a joy they hadn't felt in generations. Lyra stood in the middle of the village, watching as her world came alive. The little colour moth, now a beautiful tapestry of blue, yellow and red, landed on her shoulder, nuzzling against her cheek in thanks. Lyra, the girl who dreamed of color, had not just found it, she had brought it back for everyone. And from that day on, the village of Grayscale was grey no more. And no one ever forgot the magic of a little girl and a very special moth.